Today, we are really zeroing in on a moment that basically stopped the entertainment world in its tracks.
That's right. Sean Jay-Z Carter taking the witness stand in the Diddy trial.
Yeah, quite something.
Our mission here, really, is to walk you through the key details, the surprising moments, and the immediate fallout from that testimony. We're pulling everything directly from the comprehensive report we've got access to.
And this wasn't, just another celebrity cameo in court. This felt different. It was a very calculated, very public defense of his name, his family, his whole legacy, really, against some incredibly disturbing allegations and, let's face it, a tidal wave of rumors.
The courtroom had been, buzzing earlier, but it had just settled down after a long morning of legal arguments back and forth. The prosecution was apparently getting ready to present more evidence connected to Cassie Ventura. Diddy's lawyers were shuffling papers, maybe looking a little, comfortable. Too comfortable.
And then, bam! According to the report, the doors open. But not with a big fuss. It was described as, like, a deliberate, almost heavy silence. And Jay-Z walks in.
Just him.
Just him. The description says a midnight navy suit, perfectly tailored, looked like armor almost. No entourage, no obvious security detail.
Wow. And the reaction?
Instant. The source describes gasps, people in the gallery kind of half standing up. A reporter apparently dropped her pen. You could hear it clatter in the silence.
And Cassie Ventura.
Lean right into her attorney, whispering something urgently. Even the judge, reportedly, raised an eyebrow.
And Diddy, what did he do?
Froze, apparently. Turned his head, eyes locked on Jay-Z, like he was seeing a ghost, or maybe just something totally unexpected.
So this wasn't planned, not publicly anyway.
No, not at all. We found out later he'd actually asked for his testimony to be sealed. Yeah, but the court said no. Transparency, So the stage was set for what the source dramatically called the performance of his life. Not with lyrics, but with memory.
Okay, so he takes the stand, takes the oath. His voice, they said, was calm, controlled, but you could feel the tension underneath. Everyone was leaning in.
And he didn't waste any time. He apparently started right off with, "I want to make it clear," then paused. "I came here because silence ain't an option no more."
That's a powerful opening.
Right. The report says that's the moment the whole feeling in the room just shifted, fundamentally.
And strategically, it sounds like he didn't just jump to denials.
No, exactly. He started with context. He said something like, "Yes, I was invited to Diddy's events. Yes, I attended." Then came the pivot. But let me be clear. What I saw and what I was told were two very different realities.
Oh, carefully chosen words.
Very careful, very deliberate, according to the report. His own lawyers looked kind of stiff, and Diddy's team reportedly looked genuinely confused, like, where is he going with this?
So he's drawing a line immediately. Acknowledging being there, but separating himself from, the really bad stuff. What'd he say he witnessed?
He talked about seeing what he called the mechanics of the machine.
The machine.
Yeah. He described the setups, the NDAS, non-disclosure agreements, the confiscated phones, the back rooms with curtains.
Okay.
And then he drops this. "I never went in those rooms. I never signed those papers, but I knew." He apparently paused there, let it hang in the air, then added, "I knew something wasn't right."
Wow. I knew something wasn't right. That's huge.
Isn't it? The report said that's when the courtroom broke wide open. Because it wasn't just admitting he was at parties, it was admitting he saw the infrastructure of whatever was allegedly going on, even if from the outside.
Exactly, and he apparently tried to explain that difference.
Yeah, he turned to the jury, tried to spell it out, said something like, "You see, in this industry, there are parties, and then there are parties." He made it clear the ones he started avoiding, those weren't parties anymore. They were systems-designed experiences.
Systems-designed experiences.
Yeah, the kind that aren't about fun. They're about power, controlled. It paints this really dark picture of events with a purpose beyond just having a good time.
That distinction is chilling. Did he give any specific examples, any moments that really stuck with him?
He did. He described one party, Miami, 2015, supposedly for Christian Combs' birthday. He said things just felt off.
Off how?
They had masks, he recalled, like real masks. One man walked past me in leather with nothing but high heels on. He said people were laughing, but he wasn't. He felt like, I knew that man looked scared.
And his reaction to seeing that, what did he do?
Left. Early. Called his own driver, didn't use the planned transport. He said, according to the report, he didn't want his name attached to whatever that was.
Speaks volumes, doesn't it? Leaving early like that?
Definitely. And it was right after he talked about this that the prosecution brought out that photo.
Ah, the leaked photo.
Right.
Blurry, but authenticated.
Yeah.
Jay-Z, Diddy, LeBron James, Beyonce, and the man in the latex mask kneeling.
That's the one.
So what did Jay-Z say when they showed him that?
He looked at it, didn't flinch apparently, said, I saw that moment. I was told it was performance art. I didn't laugh. I didn't stay.
Just factual.
But then it got personal. He apparently looked right across the room at Diddy, pointedly, and said, you knew people trusted you. You used that.
Whoa. Direct shot. And Diddy's reaction.
Report says his jaw just dropped, visibly, for the first time.
Okay, that's serious courtroom drama. Moving beyond specific parties, did he talk about a turning point? A specific conversation, maybe?
Yes, he did. He testified about a private chat with Diddy late 2018. This is apparently right when the first whispers of investigation started floating around.
So Diddy called him, trying to get ahead of it.
Seems like it. Jay-Z said Diddy told him, quote, they're coming for me. You got to be careful who you stand next to.
And Jay-Z's response.
Direct. Asked him straight up, did you do anything I can't come back from?
Wow. That's a heavy question. What was Diddy's alleged answer? According to Jay-Z, just parties, Jay. Just experiences. Nobody gets hurt unless they want to.
Unless they want to. Chilling. The source mentioned Jay-Z's voice wavered a bit, recounting that. What happened after that call?
That was basically it. Jay-Z said it was the last real conversation they had. He stopped taking Diddy's calls, started actively putting distance between them, skipping events, backing out of deals. He even told his team at Roc Nation, basically, keep our brand away from whatever Puff's got going.
Wow. A clear break.
And reinforcing that, the prosecution brought up an email exchange, early 2020, a warning sent to Jay-Z's legal team. It apparently hinted that NDAs from past parties might be weaponized against people who attended.
Weaponized? How so?
Jay-Z testified he understood it clearly. I knew what that meant. They were going to use silence as a shield. I wasn't about to get caught behind it. That seemed to really cement his decision to speak out eventually.
Makes sense. And didn't he end this whole section of testimony with a really powerful line, the one that hit all the headlines?
Yeah, he did. He looked out, maybe towards the jury, maybe just out, and said, he used to be my brother. But a pause. But now I see who he really was and who I almost became by standing too close.
Whew, you could probably hear a pin drop after that.
The report said absolute silence. Everyone understood the weight of those words, the complete severing of ties, publicly.
Then the focus shifted, didn't it, towards his family. The report mentioned a real change in his demeanor.
Yeah, an emotional shift.
Yeah.
He apparently looked straight at the jury and said something like, I need to speak about my family. Because when my name gets dragged, so does theirs.
And the reaction in the room.
Total focus on him. Silence again. Jurors leaning in. Reporters stopped typing. Even Diddy reportedly looked up. The gravity shifted.
What did he say about the impact on them?
He talked about the pain it caused his wife, his kids. He specifically mentioned his daughter, Blue Ivy, asking him what a freak-off was. He said, that's not something a father should have to explain. Just heartbreaking. He described the chaos after his name first popped up in a lawsuit filing. Reporters camped outside their house, paparazzi following Blue Ivy to school, headlines just blurring truth and rumor.
He called it a nuclear bomb dropped on our family, right? Based on a lie. The personal cost sounds immense.
Huge. But he didn't just rely on emotion, he came armed. The report really emphasizes this part. He presented concrete evidence, hard facts to knock down specific false claims.
Okay, what was the first big one he tackled?
The claim that he and Beyonce were at that alleged Miami freak-off back in 2015. The source says he literally reached into a folder and started laying out documents.
Like what? What kind of proof?
Flight records, a hotel receipt from Paris, photos, video timestamps, even eyewitness accounts placing them elsewhere. And he stated it plainly to the court. On the night in question, we were in Paris. It was our anniversary.
And the court.
The report says the prosecution looked it over, the judge confirmed the dates. Everything checked out perfectly. He had, as the source put it, receipts, literally.
That's powerful. Proof positive against a specific rumor. What about the Gloria Estefan party claim?
He shut that down hard too. The quote was very clear. I want to be very clear. I have never in my entire life attended a party at Gloria Estefan's house.
Yeah.
Not in Miami, not anywhere. Very forceful.
Okay, strong denial. Did he have proof for that too?
Oh yeah. According to the report, he laid out a whole timeline for that week. Security logs from his detail, car service manifests, charity event programs. He basically walked them hour by hour through the day they claimed he was in Estefans, proving he was actually across the country in LA.
Doing what?
Attending a Sean Carter Foundation charity dinner. He had the speech he gave, the guest list, a photo with the mayor, even the museum security log showing when he arrives and left.
Okay, that sounds pretty airtight.
The report called the evidence irrefutable. It wasn't just his word against whispers, it was documented facts against specific lies.
So beyond just knocking down the specific claims, he also kind of went after the whole culture that let these rumors spread.
Absolutely. He talked about how online gossip works, clickbait culture. The power of just hinting at things, vague phrasing, innuendo.
Yeah, he had that great line, didn't he? You don't need a lie to be loud, you just need it to be repeated.
Exactly. He laid out how his name got tangled up in all this just because, he had been to Diddy's parties years ago. He sounded pretty frustrated, saying something like, "That's what this has come to. I once went to a brunch, so now I'm complicit."
And everything, yeah.
He described the whole media narrative just spinning out of control. False claims getting picked up, repeated everywhere, turning into dozens of articles, thousands of tweets, and irreparable damage.
And his team showed proof of that lack of fact-checking.
Yeah, they submitted this report showing how many sites just repeated the claims. No verification. He apparently looked towards the prosecution table and said, "If you're going to drag a man into a trial this big, you better have more than gossip and guesses." A direct challenge.
Yeah. Then things got even weirder, right? He addressed the conspiracy theories.
Yeah, the report called it a darker, surreal turn. He apparently shook his head, saying something like, "I've been called a lot of things, but Illuminati puppet, master manipulator, murderer by association, that's a new one."
He acknowledged all the crazy online stuff, the TikToks.
He did. The attempts to link him to Weinstein, R. Kelly, Epstein, all of it.
What was his take on that?
He had another memorable line. They say, "Where there's smoke, there's fire, but sometimes the smoke is just fog machines and YouTube edits."
Huh. Good line. A pretty cutting take on internet rabbit holes.
For sure. The report mentions some of the wildest accusations, him being involved in Aaliyah's death, Michael Jackson's, Tupac's, paying people off about Diddy's parties, just totally baseless stuff. He even held up a printed Reddit thread. Said this is what passes for journalism now.
And he talked about the real-world effects. It wasn't just online chatter.
No, he emphasized that. Family members being followed, business partners getting spooked, backing out of deals, actual death threats.
But then he kind of owned a piece of it. His silence may be contributing.
Yeah, it was a moment of reflection, it seems. He reportedly said something like, "Maybe his silence made it worse. Maybe I underestimated how fast lies travel when they come with good production value and ominous music."
That's insightful, actually. How did he wrap up that part?
With a really strong plea.
Yeah.
Looking right at the jury, but also kind of out to everyone watching. "I'm not asking you to like me. I'm asking you to listen, to think, to demand proof. Because if we don't draw the line here today, then none of us are safe from what comes next."
A call for critical thinking, basically, in the middle of this media storm.
Pretty much. A plea for discernment, then came the cross-examination.
Right. The mood must have shifted again. Lead prosecutor steps up, described as aggressive.
Yeah, the report paints that picture. Their strategy seemed to be, okay, acknowledge Jay-Z's proof for those specific dates he refuted, but pivot hard. Focus on any time he was ever at any of Diddy's public events in the past.
So the key question became,
Did you ever witness anything inappropriate at any of those events? That was the line.
and his response.
Kept his cool, apparently. Responded carefully, "No, I saw celebrities networking. Nothing like what's being described here." Sticking to his narrative.
What about Cassie Ventura specifically? Did they press him on that?
They did. Asked about seeing her there if she ever seemed distressed. He acknowledged she was often present, as Diddy's partner back then. But he repeated he never saw her in distress, never witnessed the specific things she described in her own suit.
Did the prosecutor try to suggest he must have known more? That he was maybe being willfully blind?
Yeah, they pushed on whether he was completely blindsided by all the serious allegations now. His denial was firm, according to the report. "I didn't see it, and if I had, I wouldn't have stayed quiet."
Then came that controversial moment, the comparison.
Yeah. The prosecutor apparently said that's what Russell Simmons said too, just dropped it in there.
Ouch! Big implication. Was there an objection?
Immediately, Jay-Z's lawyer objected, judge sustained it. But the report says the damage was kind of done. That comparison hung in the air.
So the prosecutor kept trying to imply he knew more just based on being around Diddy for so long.
Seemed to be the tactic. Suggesting proximity equals knowledge. But the report notes they didn't seem to have any actual direct evidence to back that up during the cross. It was more about planting doubt.
And Jay-Z's very last statement on the stand seemed aimed right at that doubt.
Yeah, right before stepping down. He said, "I'm not here to protect Diddy. I'm here to protect my name. And if I was part of that world," he paused, looked around, "I wouldn't be testifying. I'd be on trial."
Boom. Mic drop moment, almost.
Definitely intended that way. A final assertion of his position.
So he steps down, adjusts his jacket. What happens then? Chaos.
Controlled chaos, maybe. The report describes this intense buzz filling the room. Murmurs, people shaking their heads, some gasps. Reporters were apparently firing off texts like crazy. Social media just instantly exploded, of course.
The report made an interesting point. The internet seemed to reach a verdict immediately, but the actual jury, totally unreadable. Poker faces.
What were some of the specific reactions inside the courtroom that stood out?
Jurors were scribbling notes like mad, staring hard, chewing on pens. One spectator, identified as a former intern for Bad Boy Records, was apparently crying. Later reportedly asked reporters, did he really not see anything, or did he just look away? That question lingered.
And Cassie, how did she react to all this?
Mostly stone-faced, according to the source. But apparently when Jay-Z mentioned Blue Ivy and protecting his family, she looked up. Not with sympathy, the report suggests, but with a question in her eyes like, is he protecting his family or just himself?
Wow, that's quite the interpretation. And Diddy, how was he taking all this?
Clearly showing the strain, which was apparently new for the trial. The report describes him twitching, tapping his pen really fast, constantly looking around the room. The interpretation was stark. The ship was sinking, and everyone was trying to find a lifeboat.
Intense. What about outside the actual courtroom, like during the break?
The hallway scene sounded tense. Arguments breaking out between people. Team Jay-Z versus the skeptics. He had receipts, he came clean. Versus, nah, that was pure damage control. He's just saving himself. The report summed it up nicely. Nobody really knew, but everybody had an opinion.
Sounds about right. And the wider fallout, Roc Nation. Media.
Roc Nation HQ was described as tense. Jay-Z's lawyer gave a very short, terse statement just confirming he testified truthfully. Media went into overdrive, obviously. Every outlet dissecting it. Reactions totally split praise for his courage versus cynicism about it being a calculated PR move.
And Beyoncé. Did she react?
She trended worldwide, but her publicist stayed completely silent. Even the fan base was really divided, lots of arguments online.
And the prosecution, did they say anything afterwards?
Just a very quiet, very measured statement. Something like, while Mr. Carter's testimony was significant, our investigation remains ongoing and extends beyond any one individual. Translation, we're not done yet.
Pretty much, keeping their options open. And of course, the internet did its thing. 50 Cent jumped in immediately.
Oh, I bet. What did he post?
Viral post, photo of Jay-Z on the stand. Caption was something like, "Nice performance, but we ain't forgot them brunches, my guy." Just pouring fuel on the fire.
Always subtle, 50. Were other celebrities chiming in?
More cryptically, the report mentioned posts from Alicia Keys, Questlove, even Oprah, that seemed to hint at the situation without naming names.
Yep.
Just adding to the sense of this complex, tangled web in the industry.
So how did the source material kind of sum up the impact of the testimony?
It basically concluded his reputation definitely took a hit in the court of public opinion, no doubt, but it didn't totally collapse. The testimony was framed as this crucial turning point where silence just wasn't sustainable anymore. Not for someone with his profile and history with Diddy, given how specific and serious things had become.
Right.
The suggestion was the trial is now about more than just Diddy. It's become a lens on an entire era of power, proximity, and protection in music and entertainment. And while Jay-Z survives the stand, the final thought was that the real trial, the trial of legacy, is really just getting started.
So there you have it. A breakdown based on the reports from inside that courtroom. Sean Jay-Z Carter's testimony.
It definitely gave us a rare and, sometimes pretty unsettling look behind that very polished curtain of fame, power, and the incredibly serious claims at the heart of this Diddy trial.
We really covered a lot. His surprise appearance, the admission about witnessing the mechanics of things, that powerful defense of his family, bringing out the actual receipts to fight specific claims, and that pointed critique of how rumors just catch fire online these days.
It really does make you stop and think,
Yeah.
about how fast accusations can spread, especially unverified stuff online. How incredibly hard it must be to fight back against gossip and innuendo, let alone wild conspiracy theories. And the real damage it does, not just to the person, but to their family, their life's work. Absolutely. And considering everything we've just talked through the dramatic entrance, the talk of systems-designed experiences, the undeniable proof he offered for his whereabouts, that tense cross-examination, the whole public explosion afterwards, what do you think this deep dive really tells us about, well, the whole ecosystem, the complex web of relationships, power, and maybe accountability, or lack thereof, at the very top of the entertainment world?
That's the big question, isn't it? And if the source is right, if this testimony was the moment silence was no longer an option, and if that trial of legacy is truly just beginning, what kind of long-term ripples do you think we'll see from this, not just for him, but for the industry?